right. Hey, welcome to Brian for Liberty, and thank you for stopping by again. I appreciate it. Please take a second, if you haven't done so already, and subscribe to the channel. We are trying to grow here, and every subscription helps. If you really like the channel, if you like what I have to say, take a minute and share it with your friends, and invite them to like along with you. So, yeah, thanks for stopping by. Take a second to subscribe, and we're going to get right at it. First of all, one of my favorite YouTube socialists, Robert Wolf, makes a terrible, incredibly bad case against capitalism today. He put this out a couple of days ago, and I've been meaning to get on it, but it's been a little busy around here, so I had to put off recording for a couple of days, but hopefully we'll be able to be more consistent and get these things out a little quicker to you. But it makes a terrible case against capitalism, and then a ton of hypocrisy from our friends on the left and the right regarding economics and the Me Too movement. I think you all know where we're going to go with that. We're going to look at Nancy Pelosi talking about Joe Biden and her support for him. And we're going to talk about bailouts and all kinds of great stuff today. So a lot of hypocrisy to go around on both the left and the right. Always a good time. But let's start here with our friend Robert Wolf talking about what he feels is the most important characteristic of capitalism. You're all very welcome to go and watch this on his channel. But just be warned, he does not back away from the camera through the entire video. So what you're going to see in this clip is what you'll see when you go to his channel. And like I said, that lasts the whole time. So here is Robert Wolf.
Here is the single most important fact about that system's history. Wherever capitalism settled in as the major dominant economic system, it crashed every 4 to 7 years.
Now, he does leave out some pretty important information. First, I would say, is as capitalism has spread, extreme poverty and hunger are at all-time lows. And when I say all-time lows, I mean throughout human history, all-time lows. Leisure time has increased. We all know these things. Disposable income has increased. Humanity has enjoyed an unprecedented period of relative peace and prosperity, particularly over the last, since the end of World War II. The unfortunate reality is, yes, that a capitalist system does have a tendency to expand and contract. It's a very natural thing for economic systems to expand and contract. So that's not unexpected. That's a normal function of the economy. It's not constant, nonstop economic growth. But I will take that over what I would say is the persistent poverty, the inevitable rise of authoritarianism, and the eventual revolutionary bloodshed that follows socialism wherever it settles in. Now, let's just keep this in mind, because the first thing you socialist lefties out there are going to scream is, look at Sweden, look at the Scandinavian countries, look how great socialism works there. And I don't know how many actual Scandinavians have to keep telling you that their system is not socialist. It is a capitalist system. Their corporate tax rate is lower than ours. They don't tax their 1% in a progressive manner like we do here. Their tax rates are flattened and spread out, but it is a social democracy. It's funded by a very free market capitalist system, in a lot of ways more free market than our system. So don't scream at me and don't comment that, oh, the Scandinavian countries are socialist. That's nonsense. The Scandinavians would tell you themselves that it's not a socialist system, and that's not a valid comparison. Venezuela is real socialism. Scandinavia is actually capitalist with a large taxpayer-funded safety net. So then there's this wonderful nugget.
Sometimes, if we're lucky, the economic crashes are short-lived and don't cut very deep.
And I would just say, if we're lucky, let's be clear, there's no such thing as luck. If we're lucky, the quickest way to make sure an economic contraction doesn't become a more severe and prolonged is to make sure we don't call on government and the lords of monetary policy at the Federal Reserve to try and manipulate our way out of it. We expand economic contractions, we drag them out, we create worse situations because we never want to suffer any economic consequences. If unemployment starts to creep up, if property values are falling, whatever economic turmoil we may be feeling, we immediately turn to our friends in the government and the Federal Reserve to make them go away. They inject money into the economy through fiscal stimulus and monetary easing, which distorts the markets and makes the next fall worse, and at the same time drags out the contraction that you're in right now. So we have to sometimes be willing to suffer economic setbacks. The extremity of these setbacks isn't a product of capitalism. It's a product of our fiat monetary system, which is a topic I'm going to be getting into, but it's a complex topic. I have a lot to learn, and I'm still reading up on it. I've read a few books on our monetary system. I understand fractional reserve banking. I want to be as well versed as I can when I put that video out. Hopefully here I'll get another couple of things under my belt here, and hopefully towards the end of next week I can get a monetary policy. I might even just do that on the podcast, but we'll see. But I will definitely make sure that you guys are aware. So again, take a second to subscribe so that when these things start coming out, you're made aware. Turn on your notifications so you know when the new stuff hits. And then, like I said, even in a free market system, a purely free market system, which we don't function under because we have fiat currency, our monetary system is not free market capitalism. We obviously are not in a free market when we have bailouts and corporate welfare and all the other regulations and all those things that prevent our market from being a true free market. But even in a truly free market system, it's not going to be perfect. But freedom, both politically and economically, has always lifted more people out of poverty than any other system in the world. So I stand on the side of libertarianism because they're the only party that truly believes in both economic and political freedom. And that's the best possible set of circumstances for humanity to exist under is under the greatest possible amount of freedom available. So now we're on to some wonderful hypocrisy. And here are those superstars over at Fox, and they're talking about bailing out the states with COVID stimulus 3.5 and a quick and accurate follow-up by secular talk. So take a look at this clip.
But what Mitch McConnell was just talking about on that radio show, while it may anger the state of New Jersey, the governor here, there are some who say that that is actually a smart thing to do, because if you have another $500 billion in stimulus for a lot of states, if a state were to do what some cities are able to do and declare bankruptcy, they could reduce pensions, bond debt, currently off limits to states. However, some cities can do it. Art Laffer looks at that question about whether the states, and there are a particular number that really need it, and why. He talked about it last night on The Story with Martha.
When I listen to the discussion of the states, especially Connecticut, especially Illinois, especially New Jersey, these states have been so bad in their fiscal controls that they have run out of money. They're in bad shape. People are leaving the states in droves. And then they want the federal government to bail them out? I don't think so.
So, of course, the righties at Fox News don't want to bail out the states. These are fiscal conservatives. They've been irresponsible. They should have a rainy day fund. And of course, I agree with that sentiment. I agree that we should not be bailing out the states. They have been irresponsible. They have made political promises that they can't afford to keep. I spoke, and absolutely, this applies to big business as well. And for that matter, small business. I spoke earlier, I talked a little bit about the Federal Reserve, about monetary policy. Just to sum up, we've made borrowing way too cheap. And what that does is discourage saving and encourages risk. It encourages borrowing. Add that to the fact that most business understands now that the taxpayer is going to be on the hook to bail everyone out. And you have reckless behavior and massive debt. And that makes economic disruptions that you're going to experience even more catastrophic. And it's a failure of monetary policy, not of an economic system. And this is an economic policy. And when we talk about hypocrisy, this is not an economic system, I should say, a monetary policy. When I talk about hypocrisy, that this is fully supported by both the Republicans and the Democrats. And the collapse we're getting ready to experience is going to be significantly worse because of this. And we need to start preparing for what's coming. I'm going to be talking about that in videos and upcoming videos as well. But this is going to be bad. And I'm going to get into more detail on the why. I'm hoping to get a podcast out tomorrow evening. And that you can find on Spotify at Brian for Liberty. But the hypocrisy of the left and the right, and the fact that they both love our current system, is another reason why I consider myself a libertarian. But our current monetary system is what's going to lead to the incredible pain we're going to feel from an economic perspective as we come out of the corona side of this, the COVID-19 side of this, and move into the economic turmoil that's coming. Now we're going to get on to some even worse things. And we're all very familiar with what's going on with Joe Biden and the Tara Reade accusations. And I think we also remember all too well the Brett Kavanaugh hearings and the attempts to not look hypocritical from both the left and the right are excruciating to watch. It's painful. It's gut twisting. As a libertarian, I'm disturbed and bothered by it. As a Republican or a Democrat, it's got to be heartbreaking to recognize that the two-party system, the duopoly, how similar they are. And if you're a woman out there right now, who's on your side here? It's not the Republicans or the Democrats, and I think that's pretty clear. So this is really sad stuff. I don't think the parties could sink any lower, but they keep proving me wrong. But let's get started here with Marie Antoinette Pelosi of Let Them Eat Ice Cream fame being questioned by CNN.
About former Vice President Joe Biden and about this allegation that is being made by one of his former Senate staffers. Do you think that it is time for Vice President Biden to address this head on himself?
Well, I have great sympathy for any women who bring forth an allegation. I'm a big, strong supporter of the Me Too movement. I think it's been made a great contribution to our country.
And so you got to start by praising the Me Too movement because you got to have them on your side or you're over. And you have to flash those I love the Me Too movement credentials before you pull this stunt.
And I do support Joe Biden. I'm satisfied with how he has responded.
Essentially, she supports someone accused of sexual assault because he said he didn't do it. I mean, I guess that makes perfect sense to me. I mean, it's not like Democrats have said anything contradictory, like we should believe all women or anything. I mean, that's ideologically consistent with the message that the Democrats put out during the Trump campaign. That's the message they put out during the Kavanaugh campaign, right? If the guy says he didn't do it, then we got to take his word for it. I think that's been their pretty consistent message, hasn't it? No, this makes no sense, and the hypocrisy is ridiculous, and Nancy Pelosi should be embarrassed. She should be way more embarrassed by this than she was by her Let Them Eat Ice Cream, interview with her $25,000 refrigerators in the background. This is very disappointing. I would have expected that, the Democrats to some extent to hold their ground, and AOC did. AOC came out, and I don't agree with her very often, but she definitely talked about hypocrisy and making sure that they are holding these things accountable and that they're investigating this properly. So I do agree with her on that. Nancy Pelosi should be embarrassed. But wait now. There's more. Take a look at this.
He hasn't, to be clear, he hasn't addressed it. His campaign has addressed it, but he has not directly addressed it. Should he directly, publicly address it?
It's a matter that he has to deal with, but I am impressed with the people who worked for him at the time saying they absolutely never heard one iota of information about this. Nobody ever brought forth a claim or had anybody else tell them about such a.
So Joe is so innocent that he doesn't even have to say he's innocent. Essentially, he could just do it via proxy. Let's not forget, by the way, unless you think I'm some kind of Trump-supporting Republican, that Donald Trump is sitting in the Oval Office despite not one but 12 sexual assault allegations. And while Mitch McConnell is calling for the release of information regarding the charge against Joe Biden, no real outcry like that came from the Republican leadership now or ever. So the hypocrisy runs deep. Power with these people is more important than principles, always. And the bottom line, if you vote for either party, that's what you're voting for. So I hope that you guys will take a look at this and try not to. I think what happens is too often these conversations devolve into a left versus right. Well, look how terrible you're guys. I can't imagine a worse conversation to have than, well, our candidate only has one sexual assault allegation against him, and your president has 12. That's a horrible. Neither of these people should be in power. Period. I mean, that's the problem. But you're going to keep lining up and you're going to keep voting for him. Nancy Pelosi should be embarrassed. She's not, because when Joe Biden walks into the Democratic nomination, she knows that the Democrat base is going to go vote for him because God knows you can't let Donald Trump win. This race to the bottom, this got to win at all costs, can't let the other party into the White House way of handling government has led us to this. I didn't think it could get worse than Hillary versus Trump. But I don't know, Biden versus Trump, maybe, because you can't help but think that now that this accusation is out there, Now that Tara Reade has come forward, that there's not going to be more women doing the same, coming forward, that there's not going to be more accusations. And I think there was some discomfort with Joe Biden and his lack of inhibition or disrespect of boundaries, maybe, when it came to being around women. Now this accusation is out there. There's most likely going to be more to follow. So I think we're in a pretty bad situation here politically. I'll end on a positive note. Justin Amash has announced that he's going to run as a Libertarian. You are going to have, assuming he gets the Libertarian nomination, you're going to have one of the best, most qualified Libertarian candidates. He's been a consistent and principled voice, and I'm really looking forward to him being on the ballot. And I think a lot of people out there have to start taking a look around and figuring out if the loyalty that they show to their political party is something that that party actually deserves. So wanted to hit on some of that, wanted to beat up on some hypocrisy, wanted to talk about economics. I think we got that all covered. Thank you all very much for being here. One more time, please subscribe to the channel. If you like the content, please share it. And as always, check me out on Brian for Liberty on Spotify. And there'll be some new material coming there as well. My last podcast went over preparing for difficult economic times, kind of going over how we're being lied to, why so many families are having difficulty making it through, even in the short term, as far as paying bills and being able to put food on the table. I think it's a valuable podcast. I really hope you'll check it out. And like I said, we'll try and get, I'm going to try and get another one up tomorrow evening, and talk a little bit more about our economic system and what's coming next. So again, thank you all very much. And as always, we will see you next time.
I mean,